How you doing? Today, my guest, I am so honored to have a friend of mine from Montreal. This guy, he was the two-time world champion middleweight. But in between, he had a life-threatening car accident that was supposed to render him completely incapable of ever touching canvas again. He doesn't listen well. Made his way back in the ring. Made his way back to win a world title. Yeah, he is a great guy, but not just because of his boxing accolades, but his philanthropic heart outside of the ring. My name is Bola Ray, and this is The Scoop. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with none other than Otis Magic Grant.
Hey, Ray. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Man, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. We were just talking in the green room about your how things are going in Montreal with the COVID. I can only imagine you are beyond excited to see what's going to happen this summer. I feel that it may be behind us with the whole vaccine layout and whatnot, but fingers crossed. Me.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping that life could get back to normal. Like now that vaccine is here and the vaccine rollout seems to be in process and people are starting to get vaccinated, I'm hoping that life can return to normal as quickly as possible because rumor on the street is that even when the gym's open, people now don't come back. People are gonna be afraid to come back and all that. So now that the vaccine is here, hopefully that will encourage them to come back and get back working out and staying fit. And physical fitness is great for your mental well-being and all that. So, they close us down at a time where they're putting so much stress on people and people losing their jobs and people need to work out just to deal with the stress, and they don't have that avenue anymore. So they got to get us open sooner or later.
By all means. And I love the fact that you actually touch on the whole mental health component of the scenario. At the end of the day, with all this, let's call it indoor purgitude, has brought so many people, well, it has enhanced a whole lot of mental health issues. People need movement. People need vitamin D, which is only created when you get sunlight. So you need to be outside. Meanwhile, we're all on lockdown. So, yeah, I'm desperately looking forward to the summer. I think that they're talking about herd immunity in a couple of weeks, maybe as far away as May. It's going to be nice to just be able to sit on a patio and just sit.
Yeah, with your friends and have dinner, have a couple of drinks like we used to do like a couple of years ago. It's unheard of. Like it's kind of strange the way they have you locked down. You can only have a couple of your bubble is your bubble, your family members in your house. You can't have more than one or two people visit. And that kind, they've changed our lives totally, but it is what it is, and that's just like in boxing they say you gotta roll with the punches. So those are the punches that this pandemic has put on everybody. So we just gotta roll with it and wait till a new day is coming when the vaccine is out and everybody's gonna be all right and we could get back to life as normal.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Now, in accordance to this interview, let's give everybody a little brief update as to who Otis Grant is. How did you start boxing? You guys, and I'm going to do a future show about boxing families.
Well, my brother and I started boxing. Maybe it was 19. We came from Jamaica to Canada in 1977. I think it was 1978, 79 that we were going to elementary school and it was summertime, and and we would go to the park. We had a routine where we go to the park in our city where we lived at the time in Ville Saint Laurent, and the pool's open at like 1 o'clock. The public pools in summer, so we go to the park in the mornings. We play soccer, basketball, whatever, and then we go to the pool. That was our routine that summer. And then one evening or one morning, two of the brothers that was with our group came back and told us that they discovered a boxing club in our neighborhood, and they told the group of us, and then that's how we all went the following day, and that was our introduction to boxing. We kind of found it through friends and pretty much by accident. Then a bunch of kids on summer vacation from elementary school just tried it, and of all the guys that started with us that summer, my brother and I stuck with it, and we became, provincial champions, national champions. We fought for Canada nationally, and it took me to a world title eventually.
Yeah, you're very fortunate to have found that, because I took up the sport exceptionally late in life. Like 25, I had my first fight. I can only imagine what would have happened if I had started.
Yeah, I was 11 years old when I started.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a whole lot of wasted time on my part.
Wow. I wouldn't call it a waste of time. Listen, I trained with you, Ray. I used to train down in I used to run away from Quebec just to get away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. And I was trained in Ontario at the same gym where you were at, man. And when I needed some sparring, like you'd come in and like give me some work every once in a while. So I mean, hey, you were a hell of a fighter. I mean, you also won you were Canadian heavyweight champion, weren't you?
Yes, I am. But Otis, man, I'm a 255-pound man sparring with a 160-pound world champion. How I didn't faint, I still don't know. But I appreciate it. No, I did my thing. You went on from the amateurs to the pros. Your style was, I think, perfect for the pros. You're pretty heavy-handed and what have you. Did you find the transition difficult?
No, I didn't find a transition from amateur boxing to professional boxing all that difficult, and pretty much as successful amateur. My brother and I boxed internationally for Canada, and pretty much when you're on that level as an amateur and you transition over to the pros, more than likely, 9 out of 10 times, you'll transition fairly smoothly. If you have the good people with you and you have good management and like good promoter and you have good setup, and like boxing, even though it's an individual sport, like you need a good team. So you need a good surrounding. You need people that's going to support you from your home, living your home, your wife, your family, your parents, what have you, to your trainers, your corner guys, your training partners. So even though you see one guy in the ring, there's a bunch of guys that help him to get where he's at.
By all means, and you were blessed to have the great one, Russ Amber, in your corner.
Yeah, I mean, like Russ is my trainer since I was an amateur, since I was in my teens, and and we went all the way with me. I don't think he's had another guy since me that he's took from the amateurs to being a world champion. Yeah.
That's a success story in its own right. That's a movie in its own right. Mind you, your whole life is a movie in its own right. So, and it's like all these little facets. The very fact that, like you said, Russ Amber was with you right from amateurs, right to walking in and winning the world title, both times, is huge.
Actually, I'm gonna tell you something. Like I was world champion. I was WBO world champion. Won that title in 1997 in Sheffield, England. I fought Ryan Rhodes, and then I had a car accident that kept me out of boxing for 5 years, and then I made a comeback. On my comeback, Russ wasn't my trainer. My brother Howard was my trainer on my comeback, and on my comeback also I won the WBC international title, and I was one fight away from fighting for world title again. And the world title eliminator, I lost to Librado Andretti. So I didn't go on to win the second world title, but I was this close. I wasn't far from having the opportunity, and I lost that fight. On my comeback was from I think 2004 to 2006, and I fought 8 fights. I won 7 of 8 fights after having a like pretty much head-on collision where there was some fatalities. The lady that hit me, she passed away, and I was in the coma in hospital for
Wow.
for 10 days. The doctors, my exit interview from the hospital, I'll never forget. The doctor told me, "Listen, I have good news and I have some bad news, you know." And he goes, "Which one do you want first?" I says, "Well, I give the bad news first because I'd like to leave your office with a little bit of good news. So give him the bad news first." So he says, "The bad news is your career as a professional athlete is over. It's finished." He goes, "You'd be lucky to be a recreational athlete again, because I had some major injuries and like some limitations with my movement, and my left side was totally messed up. And then that was the bad news. But the good news, what he told me, was that you're gonna recover from your injuries, and you'll be able to live like a normal life, a fruitful life. You work as get a day job and work like." And then, not for nothing, not that I didn't take that seriously, but like 5 years after that, I was able to return to the boxing ring. Made a comeback. I won 7 of 8 fights and became the #1 ranked guy in my division on that comeback. So that was quite a story in itself. Was that I was able to come back from this almost fatal car accident where I almost died, and I came out of a coma, and I came back to be #1 ranked guy, and then I lost the title eliminator, and that was the one fight that that kept me from fighting for a world title for the second time.
Gotcha.
After that fight, I lost one fight, and after that fight, I retired. Because I wasn't in it to like come back and fight and lose and fight and lose. I just wanted to see what I could do, how far I could go. And then as soon as I lost one fight, I retired.
Called it a day. That even in that's still inspirational.
Yeah, it was. It was inspirational enough. Like, I live in Quebec, so like you guys probably wouldn't have seen it, but they made a documentary about that whole story, but it's in French, like, and it's dubbed over in French. I speak English. I speak French a little bit, but like it was English spoken, but they dubbed over, they voiced over it. But I don't think the rest of Canada saw that documentary. But it's something that has been shown and seen up here in Quebec, and if you Google Otis Grant, you might find it on the web.
I think we'll have to do that. Actually, I did not know that this existed.
Yeah, it did exist, and like we were fortunate enough that the I think it was the CBC up here called SRC, but it's a French national CBC.
Okay.
They did that story. They did the Otis Grant story, and talked about the accident, being champion, having the car accident, losing everything from the car accident, and coming back 5 years later, and then almost getting it back, but didn't quite.
When that doctor told you that you were never going to be a professional athlete again, did you believe him?
You know what? At that time, that wasn't my focus. I didn't really care about fighting. It wasn't what was my main objective at the time was that like my wife was 3 months pregnant with my son. And nobody knew because we hadn't told anybody yet. We're waiting for the first trimester and all that. So nobody knew. It was only me and her that knew. And like when the doctor told me that, like I was just happy to be alive and get out and make sure that she was all right, because it was a very stressful time for her. And had I not make it through that accident, had I not come out of that coma, I would have never known my son. I have a 21-year-old son right now. He's a big kid. He's bigger than me, bigger than you, Ray. He's like about 6 foot, 6'2", 6'3", 300 pounder. He's a football player. You know, he's out on
What?
university football scholarship at Queen's University
Wow.
in Kingston,
Yeah.
Ontario. So like had I not come through that period of my life, I would have never known this kid. So when I came out of hospital, after the doctor told me that, I just want to make sure that my wife was good, and my daughter was in the car with me at the time too. And like that was one of my main concerns too, was making sure that she wasn't all that traumatized from the accident. So we got her to see like a psychologist, child psychologist at the Children's Hospital, make sure that she was okay before starting back school, because that accident happened in the summer. And everything, like, thank God, like, worked out in her favor. Now she's 26 years old, and she just got married 2 years ago, and they bought a home in the city in Montreal like last year. So like I'm blessed with the family that I have. You know, like it could have been a lot worse, and like had I not made it through that time, I wouldn't have been here to see all this.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And we're, we're more than happy than or fortunate to have you still with us, man. You've done a lot. And now that's from your boxing world.
Yeah.
Tell me something about your the Otis Grant and Friends Foundation.
But the Oscar and Friends Foundation, like ironically enough, funny enough, started because of that car accident. You know, like I was in that hospital. I was champion of the world at the time, had the accident, and got a lot of press. I was in hospital. I don't know, but I heard it was on the news every day. It was on the news every day, updates and how I was doing and all that. And then I got a hospital later on in the summer. I went to hospital in June. Out hospital near the end. I was about a month in hospital. In the month of July, and then that fall there was a community program in Montreal that helps people and feed people, and they had a food bank, and they were having a hard time filling their need list. And the gentleman knew or heard of me, knew of me, and all the press, and he asked if I could loan my name to a food drive to help them bring in some food that fall to help fill their coffers to feed people at Christmas time and all that, right? So I said, okay. I was feeling fortunate to be alive, that I had a second chance to be here. And then I thought I'd use my name to help some people in need. And I had like some friends and some people that was in the food business. And I went to them, told them what was asked of me, and they said, okay, leave with me. Let me see what's going on. And then they told their suppliers that, hey, we're involved with a food drive to help some needy families at Christmas time. And my friend, he was also a sponsor of mine, Sammy Fruits, name is Taleb. And he did that while making his Christmas orders, and his suppliers say was ordering a pallet of whatever, like potatoes, cabbage, could be whatever was they. And he told him we were a food drive. They sent him a pallet. He was ordering a couple. They sent him a pallet. Okay, send this pallet to your food drive. Give that. And by doing that, I think in 3 weeks of making those calls, making orders, he brought us in 10 ton of food,
Wow.
of produce.
Wow.
It was so much stuff that it was just too much stuff to give to this one community program. So at that time, I realized I could use my name to help multiple people or community programs that feed people, and that's how the Otis Grant and Friend Foundation got started in the Christmas season of 1999, in the fall of 1999. And we had so much stuff in. We just went on the phone, went through the yellow pages, and called all the food banks and food programs and homeless shelters that fed people. And we just told them, listen, you want some food? Just get a van, send the truck up, and we're just gonna load you up. So we just load up trucks, and they just come and we load them up, and then like it was such a success that we ran the foundation like that for maybe the first 3 years. We used to do a huge Christmas food drive, but now since then, that was 1999. We've ventured into like other community programs, education. We give some scholarships. We, like this past Christmas, we helped about 3 women shelters, some churches, soup kitchens, that kind of stuff, and we also have partnership. Like I do dinner annually in aid of the West Island Palliative Care, which is residents up here that looks after people that are dying on their last days. I think if you have under 6 months or so to live. So like I have great like directors and partners and support with the foundation. I have like Mr. Bellevue is one of my main guys I look to for counsel, and like I have Marty Lamar from 94.7 Hits FM. We do a hockey marathon in the spring that brings us in a lot of money, and all the money that comes in goes into foundation account to go back out to the community. So we do a lot of grassroots stuff, and we also do a lot of like stuff that helps the palliative care and community programs, all kinds of women shelters, all kinds of stuff, man. Like you'd have to look online. I can't like remember them all off the top of my head, but we're out there and we're trying to do our part in making our community a better place. And I think if there's one thing that I was a boxer, yes, and I became a world champion. But people don't remember me for that. Like that was yesterday. But like the fact that I'm here and I'm able to and make a difference in my community, I think that's the type of
legacy you're looking for.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that'll go a longer way than just me being a former athlete that from Canada fought and became a world champion.
I couldn't agree more. I think that you just rewrote a new chapter. You turned a corner. You succeeded already in the athletic world. Let's see what happens with the philanthropic world. You're doing amazing. One of the reasons why I still say that you are. Muhammad Ali was the greatest for a reason. Not just because of what he did in the ring, but because what he did outside the ring. I see you walking right in the man's footsteps. So I tip my hat to you. I tip my hat to you often, but
Well, thank you very much. Like, my name is on that foundation, so because of that, I'm very involved. But like, I have a couple buddies of mine, guys that was with me from back in the day that would come on the road with me to fights. That's why I fought on the road a lot. Like I won the world title. I won the world title on the road. I fought pretty much exclusively once I was signed with Banner out of the United States. I fought the world title in England, and I had a bunch of guys from Montreal that would come with me on the road, and I didn't care where I fought, but I knew I had my bubble. Like today they call it the bubble with this pandemic, but I had my group of guys that would come, and no matter where I fought, I felt like I was good because I had my homies with me, and I had that comfort and stability to know that I could go anywhere and fight, and it doesn't matter if there's like 100,000 people, 50,000 people, 20,000 people in the audience. I had like 5-10 guys that I knew had my back. So for that reason, I think I was successful, and I don't know how many world champions have since come from Canada. I know after me, there was a few there, and in recent years, been a lot more. There's been Lutin Boutte, Jean Pascal, Don Stevenson off from Montreal, a couple of guys from Toronto. I know that Stephen Molitor was a world champion around the same time I was, or not far. But I know there's not too many from Canada that became world champions. But I'm glad that I'm part of that club, and that I'm an example for guys out there to follow. Know that like there's a lot more to uh, to athletes or boxers than just being a fighter in the ring. And that's what I want. That's the legacy I want to leave. I was much more than a fighter. I mean, I worked in the school system. I was a teacher in the school
Exactly.
system for many years, and like even right now, I'm getting calls to go back into the school system, and I might, depend on what we do with this gym with this pandemic. But if it doesn't go and we have to close, I have options. And I use what I think a lot of fighters don't do, Ray, is they get used by boxing. Boxing will eat you
Yes.
up and spit you out, right? And I was the kind of fighter that I use boxing to better myself, to make me better down the road. I use boxing to put myself through school. I use boxing. I went to college.
Yeah.
I graduated from university. Like other kids had part-time jobs working here and there. I fought 2, 3, 4 times, usually 3 times a year. When and the money I made kept me on the road, my little car on the road, paid my tuition, all that kind of stuff, and my future away from the game was secure. Like I could go out and I'm employable. I could get a job anyway. I could get a job doing
Good
something
for you.
because I have university education, and that's the one critique I have of a lot of fighters. They just put all their eggs in the boxing basket and don't look for opportunities elsewhere after boxing, and that's why a lot of these guys end up, after they fought, they made millions of dollars, and then they're out on the street after they retire. After a year and two, they have nothing to do, and they're not employable. They might have stayed in the game too long, gotten beaten up, and walking on their heels is one of the common sayings that they have in our business.
Yep. Yeah. No, this is part and parcel why I wanted to have you as my guest on the last show of the week, because it was precisely that. You do set the example, you set the bar that much higher for not just the average fighter, but the champions. Because the reality is, you have taken your success and used it as a vessel to actually better your society. And I applaud you 100 times over because of such. You are. Do you actually go and do motivational
Yeah,
speaks?
I used to do a lot of motivational speaking, and I still do some, like especially during February, which is Black History Month. Like not this year because of the pandemic, but
Sure.
and I used to work. I used to work in the school system, right? So one of the deals I had with my principal at the time, I was working in administration. I had an office, but like every once in a while, like there's an athletic banquet, there is Black History Month presentation, so I'll get called to go to schools to speak and tell my story, right? So I had it with my principal, Mr. Rhymes, at the time that I said, okay, you know what? This is what it is. I says if I'm gonna go out and go to schools and speak at schools and stuff like that, I'm still on the clock. So I was still get I was still getting paid. So it wasn't like I had to leave the school and go speak somewhere and not get paid. It was still a part of my job. So it made it quite easy for me to go out there and public speak and speak to young people and let them know that their education is important, and they need to follow through with it. They can't give up on it, because like your education is something that nobody could take away from you. Like your boxing
Exactly.
career, your career in sports or in athletics. I spoke a lot of like athletic banquets and stuff like that, and I let them know, hey, you're an athlete now, but focus on your education, because that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. Like
Yeah.
you're one injury away from losing your athletic career. So that was the message I tried to drive home to a lot of young people, and let them know that they shouldn't give up on their education.
That's amazing. That's it. Like I said, you're an inspiration to so many, and I hope I hope a new flock of admirers follow you from this episode.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. Because with this pandemic and stuff that's going on, like you gotta like be able to bob and weave and slip and slide and like pivot and find another avenue. You know, because if this pandemic causes the people not to come back, I'm gonna have to, if I want to stay in athletics or physical fitness or personal training, I might have to, you know, if we have to close the gym, then I might have to go on road or find something to do. But like, you
Reinvent
know, like
yourself.
even though I do have an education and I could go back to working in the school system or working a regular job, like in the last 10 years or so, I've been working for myself and I enjoy working for myself. And I'm not on the clock. I don't have to be somewhere at a certain time at a given
Yeah.
moment for X amount of hours per day and all that. So I'll, if we gotta change course due to pandemic, I'm hoping that I can change course where I'm still my own.
That's awesome. I'm wishing you the best, man. I wish you the best. The producer is actually flagging me. We're out of time, but
He's flagging you.
yeah,
Okay, man.
we're out of time.
I hope I was okay, man. I hope this interview went well. And like, I know, you know, like this week you're doing Canadians that became world champion.
Yeah,
And I hope I represented well.
you did. You did fantastic. I'd love to have you back on again.
All
Bring you
right, well,
back.
you got my contact now, man.
That would be
And you know, we used to be in Toronto a lot back in the day when my brother and I was with Stell Promotions with Don
yeah.
and Jim. So we don't come down that way much anymore. But if I'm ever down that way, like I'll look you up. I'll let you know when we get together, and I'll come in studio and do a podcast with you.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you so much, man.
All right, thanks for having me on. All right, all
Good
the
seeing
best.
you.
All right, you
Sure.
take care.
Bye
All
now.
right, bye.
So, folks, that's the episode. If you like this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. It's your boy Bola, and that's the scoop.